All right, we're back again. This is it. This is the final chapter of the hot takes. This is an industry hot take video. And listen, we have some of the best names in the Dynasty industry here giving you the hottest takes. And now we end it with some other fantastic Dynasty analysts. We have Chad Workman and Matt Nine. Tell us where we can find you.
I'm at Tweets by Chad on Twitter.
And I am at M9 9.
And tell them the fantastic website that you provide the Dynasty community.
So I am co-owner of the Fantasy Scouts, and you can find our work at ffballalday.com.
Fantastic website. I follow you guys on Twitter personally, and there's not a lot of Twitter analysts I follow personally on Twitter. I follow you guys. You guys do tremendous work. So here we are. We're talking Dynasty hot takes, of course, for the 2021 season. You guys are in the industry, so I'm assuming you have some hot takes as well. Hot take.
Chase Claypool finishes the top 12 wide receiver this year.
Whoa. Top 12?
Top 12.
Wow, he said Chase Claypool is a hot take. I was like, he's going to be like a wide receiver too. You're saying top 12? Tell our audience why Chase Claypool, who was in the outside of a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 1, 2 wide receiver 2s.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster was wide receiver 16. Deontay Johnson was like right around wide receiver 23. And
I think he 23 or 24. He was right
and
there.
And Claypool was right behind him, like literally right behind him. So why does Claypool take a jump forward? And I know I broke down some of this about why in the Dynasty Search podcast we broke down the Steelers, where I thought like if Big Ben can get his arm back, Claypool offers the most upside in the deep ball. Tell our audience why you think that Chase Claypool finishes a wide receiver 1, which is a very hot take.
Well, I think we need to start with and understand that he only played on just above a 60% snap share last year. And he led the team in touchdowns. He led all rookies last year in touchdowns. I believe he was second in targets. He was second in yards. He was probably the third in red zone targets. But when we look at that, we have to assume that there's going to be growth going into year 2. That his role will expand from 63%. You'd probably like somewhere in the 80 to 85% snap share range. So with Big Ben now 2.5 years removed from his elbow surgery, Claypool's role should expand to the point where Deontay will probably still out-target him. I'm not going to make that argument.
Led the team in targets when he was on the field.
Right, I'm not going to make that argument, but Claypool possesses massive touchdown upside. And they're still using him in the run game. He had 9 receiving touchdowns last year and 2 on the ground. And if you guys went back and watched that Cincinnati game late in the year, he actually lined up in the H-back spot, which I don't think a lot of people noticed. Now, they didn't use him out of that, but he was back there, which I found that very, very interesting. So this year, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that even though Deontay's probably going to out-target Claypool, that Claypool still outproduces him in fantasy because of that touchdown upside. Like if they both have roughly 1,000 yards, I think Claypool doubles Deontay's touchdown production, and I don't think Deontay can make up that point differential in receptions.
And touchdowns is where it's at when it comes to fantasy football. I mean, we saw guys like LeGarrette Blount be a running back 1 strictly on touchdowns, and it would be argued last year where he wasn't overly productive in the receiving game. His 11 touchdowns got him to that wide receiver 2 status.
Right.
I mean, we had 3 wide receiver 2 status wide receivers on the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's championship caliber players on a team where Big Ben wasn't 100% healthy. So all accounts coming out of Pittsburgh right now is Ben Roethlisberger is healthy. So somebody you would imagine that had high-end or mid-range wide receiver 2 status to even low-end could sneak their way into wide receiver 1 status. A lot of the community would say Deontay Johnson's that guy. If I put a poll up on Nice Turns account, who's the wide receiver 1, which I think I did on my personal account, it was Deontay Johnson won that vote. Yeah. I asked who would be a wide. It's funny that you brought it up because I did put a poll in there. Pittsburgh had 3 wide receiver 2s, and I put up their finishes. Which one could be a wide receiver 1 next year? I put Claypool, Juju, or none of them all, and sure. Claypool. And Deontay Johnson won that vote. And I think it was none of them. One was a second place, and then Claypool. But I'm with you. Like I think Claypool offers that kind of upside because when it comes to touchdown, offering him outside, a less of a drop rate than Deontay Johnson. I'm shoving Juju aside. I just don't.
Yep.
Rich.
I've never been a lover.
Deontay Johnson was in first among the wide receivers, but the winning vote was none will be a wide receiver 1.
So that was the winning vote.
Claypool was 2. Juju was far behind in third.
So basically they cannibalize each other. Does that worry you about like they have 3 very talented receivers and the fact that they draft Najee Harris in the first round? So for you to say he's wide receiver, a top 12 wide receiver, the concern is not the talent for me. And that's why I put that poll out there, Jared, on Twitter. It's because You have 3 talented guys. They draft a high-quality tight end in the second round in Pat Freiermuth. They draft a high-quality running back who's actually very viable in the receiving game in Najee Harris. And we saw the Steelers, when they have a viable receiver in the backfield, they utilize that. Mike Tomlin utilized that, which offers my biggest upside for Najee Harris. Why he's my running back 1 over guys like Javonte Williams. You're telling me Jace Claypool could overcome all that and be a wide receiver 1? I'm not arguing against it.
Right.
It's like I could see the path too. It's just I always argue like it's so easy for analysts, not even analysts, for people to say like this guy's a wide receiver 1 when there's only 12 of those people that exist in the world, and some of those people are locked up. Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, like those shoes are filled if they stay healthy. So we're talking about 6 spots viable with lots of guys like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, who have a history of fulfilling that position, right? Keenan Allen is even. We can stay here for all day and talk about guys who can fill that spot. But you're giving that spot to Chase Claypool. You feel really good about it for this position. And again, I love it because, I love the opportunity of the youth and the upside for players. And Chase Claypool falls right in that category. It's just you don't find that opportunity very often with 2 very young guys, let alone 3. But Juju doesn't count because he's gone after this year. We have 2 very young guys in Deontay Johnson and Claypool fighting for that spot. There will only be one, and you believe it's Claypool.
Yeah, I do. And I don't – Deontay is a very different player. He has his own role on the team. That doesn't bother me. And then Juju doesn't bother me at all because I think what we always preach at Fantasy Scouts is you have to project forward. You cannot assume that Claypool is still going to run at his 60% snap share. So when we project forward, that increases. You would assume the targets then increase, the yardage increase. And I have a chart here. He was actually the Steelers' most efficient wide receiver on his limited opportunity last year. He led the Steelers in 9 different efficiency categories. So if he continues that efficiency, I guess, trajectory with the increased target share and the increased yardage that goes with that, there's no reason that he shouldn't finish as a top 12 wide receiver. And I think when we look at Chase Claypool, he's one of those few guys that come into the league where we can look at him and honestly say, I'm not sure that he actually has a ceiling. Like we don't see players like him often.
Listen, I love it. I mean, we're trying to save the kids. That's the nibble juice you're looking for. You have a guy as well that we're trying to provide here that you think offers tremendous upside. That you're saying is a hard buy. Now you're on an opposite spectrum because Chase Claypool is like, okay, maybe that's my favorite Steeler receiver. Maybe it's not. Whatever. You're saying J.K. Dobbins. Now J.K. Dobbins. If you're going out to try and buy J.K. Dobbins today, I hope you're bringing one that you're like your least favorite child because that's what you're going to have to give up to get J.K. Dobbins in Dynasty right now. But why are you saying, hey, this little kid right here, who I don't really love as much as the rest of my kids, is worth to give to you for J.K. Dobbins?
Well, I don't have any children, but when I do, I will promise my least favorite child for J.K. Dobbins this year.
And tell us why.
Because he's worth it. Because
that kid's not that good.
A lot of people want to talk about his lack of receiving work, and that's fine. And I get
Where does that come from, though? He did it at Ohio State. Where does this narrative come from about J.K. Dobbins?
You know what? He reminds me a lot of Nick Chubb in the Browns offense. Just so good, so efficient. He's not going to catch the most passes, but that offense is so good and so efficient, it outweighs the concern with receiving work. So the last 3 years, I did a little bit of a study on rushing quarterbacks, and the last 3 years, the Ravens have averaged just the running backs, not the quarterback at all.
Would you always have to take it out when it comes to the most prolific rushing offense in the NFL? You have to take away Lamar Jackson. Otherwise, it's not fair.
Which makes the whole offense so efficient. But the Ravens running backs have averaged over 15 touchdowns the last 3 years, just on the ground, and over 1,800 rushing yards the last 3 years. The league average is about 1,511 touchdowns on the ground. So they're scoring 4 or 5 more touchdowns per game on the ground, or per season on the ground from their running backs, and over 300 rushing yards more from their running backs. So that just sheer volume and efficiency that the Ravens are, running the ball with is going to allow Dobbins to outweigh his lack of, receiving work. And he's so efficient. He was number 1 in true yards per carry last year, which takes away the big runs.
6, right? Was he averaging 6 yards per carry?
Yeah.
Yeah. 6.0, I think it was.
Yeah. Best in the league. And then even taking away, the true yards per carry, taking away those big runs, he also led the league in big run rate. So you're getting the big plays, but you're also getting that efficiency.
You're talking about a team that's literally on Twitter and on their website preaching, hey, we are going to get him more involved in the passing game, which we showed at Ohio State that he could do.
Exactly.
And if this is a team that's going to provide Lamar Jackson a long-term contract, they have to protect him. And to protect him, they got to get away a little bit from the run game. If it's a team that's still going to stick to their roots, which is running, J.K. Dobbins is the answer. And I know Izzy from D2C preached Gus Edwards, who has a 700 yards floor, but that doesn't worry me. Like the running back too, it's like I don't like Nick Chubb because Kareem Hunt's there.
Exactly. That's exactly why I made that comparison.
It's a great comparison.
Thing,
There's teams that can provide that. Like
Right.
I talked about it in Dynasty Nerds podcast not too long ago. Like everyone wants to talk about these teams that provide 2 wide receivers. What teams can offer you high-end running backs? Obviously, Cleveland is one of those teams. Baltimore would easily be a second choice there. Falls in category of like Indianapolis, right? Because you have Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines in the PPR league. Finishes running back 16 last year, could offer you that production in the PPR game. Washington football team, if somehow they keep J.D. McKissick in that high-end target category, which I don't predict because they want to get Antonio Gibson more involved, falls in that category. So who's that PPR guy? Gus Edwards could be between the tackles, touchdown guy, but J.K. Dobbins can be involved not only on the ground rushing for 6 yards per carry, but also in the PPR game, which I expect to take a big uptick.
Yeah, and like you said, they've already been talking about wanting to get him more involved in the pass, and he's shown out in camp in terms of receiving. They know he can do it there, and they want to get him 40, 50 catches.
I love it. I love him. I think it's all fantastic. I think it's 2 real high quality assets. Obviously, one's extremely expensive to buy, but one you can buy. And that's where it is. Where's the opportunity? Where do these windows open up? And where's that buying window? I think this is a buying window for Chase Claypool. I'm with you 100%, and I love J.K. Dobbins as a cornerstone franchise player. That's it. Thanks for watching. This is Dynasty Nerds YouTube channel. Again, tell people where they can find your work.
At M99 and then ffballalday.com.
And your fantasy football website?
ffballalday.com.
I have a learning disability, so.
Mine is at Tweets by Chad, and I write for Dynasty Nerds as well as ffballalday.com.
Hey, no offense, but DynastyNerds.com is the greatest dynasty football website of all time.
The 2 best. I got the 2 best.
There you go.
Hey, second place is good too, right?
Hey.
Woo! Hit it!